the main event of day one of WrestleMania 36 is the Boneyard match. The Undertaker versus the phenomenal AJ Styles. Now, we get a nice package, a video package between these two guys. This is something, like I had mentioned earlier, it has this rivalry is personal. With AJ, calling the Undertaker by his name. Mentioning his wife by name. Calling him an old man, washed up, shell of his former self. It's gotten personal. And honestly, this is how you do an angle. This is how you do a storyline. Give me a reason to care. And, not only was it a good angle, not only did it have that personal element to it, a reason for these guys to actually fight each other. But again, I've been a fan of AJ Styles for a long, long time. Been a lifelong fan of The Undertaker. So I wanted to see them to begin with, but a good story on top of it, well worth it. So again, cool video package to start everything off. We go to a graveyard, okay? And essentially what this is, it's apparently, and we'll talk about this again at the end, but apparently it's like a buried alive match, but they're doing it in a graveyard. So it's kind of the buried alive match mixed with the WCW's graveyard match. And you combine the two and you get the Boneyard match, I guess. So this thing starts off, the hearse driving up into the gate, pulling into the cemetery. Like some druids get out of the hearse, pulls the coffin out of the back of the hearse, opens it up, and there's AJ Styles. A nice little twist there. I was, expecting The Undertaker, but nope, AJ Styles steps out of the coffin. After that, you start hearing this motorcycle, and they pan over to The Undertaker riding down the road on the motorcycle. The American Badass is back, and he's here to whip somebody's ass. So he rolls into the graveyard. And right away, this thing starts out quick. It's a slugfest. It's a fight. The Undertaker ends up putting his hand through one of the glass windows of the hearse. He's bleeding from the forearm. He's grabbing AJ Styles. He's throwing him into the coffin. He picks up AJ and he throws him onto the roof and onto the windshield, smashing the windshield of the hearse. Undertaker's talking some smack to AJ this whole time. He's beating AJ down, just punching, just beating the piss out of him up on the roof of the hearse and everything else. AJ Styles, in a desperation maneuver, throws dirt in the eyes, gets a low blow. AJ Styles starts to take over, but it doesn't last long. The Undertaker then starts to take back over. But the OC, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, they show up. Taker starts walking over to him, and there's like this wooden fence, kind of, and there's almost like the side of a barn. This big bright light shows up. The wall comes down, and the druids start walking out. All these different druids walking out, and they surround the Undertaker. Undertaker starts fighting them all off. But just as he's getting, looks like he's gonna fight them all off, AJ Styles comes up, hits the Undertaker in the back with what looked like to me a tombstone, smashing it over his back. At that point, AJ tackles the Undertaker through another wooden fence. And at this point, the Undertaker, he's laying there. He's taking some punishment. From the druids, from Luke Gallows and Anderson, from AJ Styles. And the Undertaker's looking very vulnerable at this point. And that's one of those things that's interesting about, I guess, the American Badass persona, is he can look like a regular dude. He can show that vulnerability. When he's the dead man, you don't see a lot of that, nor do I think you should. But he's looking very vulnerable here. He's looking beaten down. He's looking tired. He's looking like, AJ Styles just might get him. AJ Styles breaks a shovel over the back of the Undertaker, and the Undertaker falls into the open grave. AJ Styles jumps up on the tractor. It looks like he's getting ready to bury the Undertaker, but a light goes off and the Undertaker's standing behind AJ Styles. AJ Styles, he tries to fight off the Undertaker, but he ends up retreating. He starts climbing a ladder. He gets up on the roof of this barn or this building. Undertaker just stalking him. They're up on the roof, and the Undertaker raises his arms. Some pyro goes off, cutting AJ Styles off. He can't go anywhere. He's trapped. The Undertaker's got to fight off Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson again. He fights off the OC. He takes Luke Gallows. He throws him off the roof of the building. He tombstones Carl Anderson on the roof. After that, he grabs AJ Styles by the throat, chokeslams him off the building to the ground. Undertaker comes back down. He's talking serious trash. And at this point, the Undertaker, to me, is looking more badass than he has in quite a while. And again, I've always loved the Undertaker. But he's got this mean streak that's coming out in this. Again, it's very personal. I love this. So the Undertaker, he picks up AJ Styles. He takes him over to the grave. And he looks like he's going to show compassion to AJ Styles. He picks him up, he hugs him almost, and he's like, you know what, you put up a hell of a fight. You think I'm going to bury you? Nah, I'm not going to do that. He goes to start walking away, but he turns around and he kicks AJ Styles into the grave. The Undertaker jumps up onto the tractor and buries AJ Styles. You don't ever get an official word like the Undertaker won the match, but you get the Undertaker gong, and the Undertaker walks by the tombstone and pulls some moss or something off the gravestone, and it's got AJ Styles' name on it. The Undertaker jumps back on the bike and he takes off. We fade to black, and that's it. This was very interesting. What's interesting to me about this is it had, I feel, the Broken Hardys, influence. And it was very strong in this. What's interesting about that is, just to get a little off topic for a moment, the fact that Vince and the WWE didn't use the broken or woken Matt Hardy thing basically at all. Like, they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't understand it, but yet they've done a couple things like this. They did the one fight between, I believe it was the New Day and the Wyatt family, like this. They did a match between, I believe it was Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton that was shot this way. And so now you got this graveyard match that's done in this very cinematic type, in a cinematic type of way. In some aspects, it's great. In other aspects, it's eh. The only thing I can say about this is that, I've seen a couple of the deletion things that the Hardys had done when they were in Impact, and they'd light fireworks off at each other and just some stupid shit like that. The drones and that kind of stupid shit. This didn't have things like this. It did have the one spot with the Undertaker raising his arms and the pyro going off. Didn't know if that was really necessary, but nothing overly stupid or silly. And it made, to me, the Undertaker look like a badass. After seeing this, as far as I'm concerned, you don't fuck with the Undertaker ever again. Nobody should be messing with the Undertaker. That's just the way it looked and the way it made the Undertaker look. It made him look very strong. I like that. AJ Styles did a great job in this. But I guess my whole point of that is, it's like that Broken Hardys thing is obviously it's in play here. The influence is here, but it's done, I think, better because of that. So again, it was interesting. I'm glad that it was like this that finished off the show for the first night instead of say that stupid Universal title match or something. I think it was done pretty well for the most part. And it was, I think, the only... And again, I can see kind of how some things were done. and how they could get away with certain things and with a way with shooting something like this. So it's not really, I feel, a match per se, but the way this was made so personal between The Undertaker and AJ Styles, it felt more like just a straight up fight. And that's fine. I think there was nothing was wrong with that. You know, you didn't really get a match here. You got to fight. You got to brawl. You know, and they were trying to hurt each other. You know, and that's what it was supposed to be. And so I was fine with that. I thought it was interesting. I enjoyed it. And I honestly wouldn't mind watching that again. It was, I believe, my favorite thing of the entire, episode of WrestleMania 36. You know, first day of WrestleMania. I thought it was very good.